convergence of all the components of the regional varieties, Tarifi, Tashrihi, Tamazigh, which constitute a coherent and logic inclusion. It is away from bottom up, from the three varieties of Amazigh to the language. It's a bottom up process. Okay, thank you so much. The language planning strategy is based on a common grammatical framework and basic lexicon. The aim has been to proceed gradually, flexibly, and progressively towards standardizing that starts from regional realities without forgetting the reality of the local states. Homogenization through convergence and international benchmarking is the credo adopted by the IRCAM. And the IRCAM researchers who come from different regions of the country, have multidisciplinary backgrounds, and are trained to the highest academic standards. Transcription in Tifinagh are thriving in public spaces now. You have seen it. When you come to Morocco, you have seen it. In public spaces. In May 2023, the Ministry of Education decided to introduce the teaching of the Amazigh language in all primary schools by 2030, with a target of 50% by 2026. Members of Parliament ask questions in Amazigh now, and debates in plenary sessions have been translated into Amazigh since 2022. Training institutions for senior government officials are introducing Amazigh language teaching into their curricula now in Morocco. Bachelor's, master's, and doctorate degrees as awarded by universities that have been developing specialized courses for 2 decades. Research units and study centers have been set up in Amazigh and in Tifinagh, and not just in Arabic, French, English, or Spanish, or Chinese, like it was the case several years before, as was the case 30 years ago. Courses are taught in Amazigh are not just about Amazigh. They are taught in Amazigh, not only about Amazigh. Of course, all this work, supported by the institutional and political arsenal, gradually put in place since 2001. It's confronted with the challenge of the socio-economic language market, where competition is relentless. This renaissance and development of the Amazigh language has created in Morocco an environment and a context in which all Moroccans, Arabic-speaking or Amazigh-speaking, are reappropriate their culture in all its variants and its heritage, linguistic, artistic, social, and political dimensions. All these above institutional and political achievements are certainly important, but they can't remedy the damage caused by the marginalization of the language and culture in all its diversity, in all its many dense, multifaceted ramification, nor the damage done into intangible social and local dimensions, whole suites of the language and cultural diversity of each region, each family, each village, and each traditional community have been lost or destroyed forever assumpto. In conclusion, despite all these achievements, the two official languages are totally dependent on the language markets and the players in the globalization process, which is dominated by the languages of scientific, technological, and digital globalization. The endangered languages spoken by indigenous community are carriers of traditional ecological knowledge, medicinal practices, and social practices, and substantial ways of living. When a language vanishes, part of human culture and heritage disappears with it. Endangered languages represent a unique part of the world cultural heritage. Their protection is not only a matter of linguistic diversity, but it is, first, cultural diversity as well. It is also vital to ensuring that future generations can benefit from the wealth of knowledge, traditions, and perspectives they offer. Nowadays, endangered languages are facing various threats, including cultural assimilation, economic pressures, and the domination of more widely spread languages. The protection and revitalization of these languages are essential for the protection of not only linguistic diversity, but also the cultural heritage of embodied. With the spread of digital technology and artificial intelligence, one way wonder about how many of these endangered languages will manage to resist and survive. Indeed, after 2 decades of the establishment of ICANN, the introduction of Amazigh at school, after more than a decade of its introduction in the media and its officialization in the Constitution, the Amazigh community's attitude haven't changed much. That's the big problem. Under the impact of globalization, social media, and the spread of new technologies, Amazigh young generations still view Amazigh as useless and non-value and prefer to learn foreign languages, especially English, because of the education and professional opportunities the languages offers. Like the China with my friend and my colleague Karima, I would like to thank her for being here with us. When languages become the playthings of minority communities at the margin of productive and arrogant technology, that is the big question for me. Because in Morocco now we have not the problem of law with Amazigh, with the problem of practices in communities, families, and the daily life in societies. I thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Khrouz, for your talk, really, where you try to actually go over the evolution of the status of Amazigh in Morocco, and telling people who are not aware. I think that's a very interesting talk, because people who are not familiar with the Amazigh case really got a clear idea about its evolution and how things are now, at what level they are now. Of course, as you may have noticed, I thank him very much for the effort he has made to speak in English. Actually, his working language, he would have been, I'm sure, more at ease in French or in Arabic, but I imposed on him to speak in English so as to really, and it was clear, very straightforward, and I hope that you have all enjoyed listening to him. So as he concluded, I really captured one of the things he said, and because I myself have been working on the Amazigh language since the 80s, so it's 50 years actually. I'm still young, yeah. I started very early, yeah. So for 50 years I've been working on Amazigh language, starting from my MA at the university, and I can tell you that I haven't noticed much change in the attitudes of communities. On the opposite, some of the communities that were more protective of the Amazigh language, and I would like to refer to the south of Morocco, especially in the case here with me that we are exploring with a former doctoral student of mine who is now a university professor. Even the areas that were protective of the Amazigh language are now giving up the Amazigh language, and you have parents are no longer transmitting the language to their children. And this is actually, according to the experts, this is the main symptom of Amazigh language endangerment. When language transmission stops, natural language transmissions from one generation to the other stops. This is the evidence, the concrete evidence that the language is on its way to being lost. Of course, there are already Amazigh communities that have lost their language, but of course, despite the achievements achieved, or the changes in the attitudes, the official attitudes, the introduction at school, but we can say, what introduction? Even when we take initiatives, we should also evaluate how efficient these initiatives are. For instance, the teaching, we have had an evaluation of the teaching of Amazigh, and the IRCAM itself has declared that the teaching of Amazigh was a failure. It didn't succeed to achieve its goals. And of course, as we see, the officialization of Amazigh itself was established in 2011, and until now, not much has been done to implement it as side by side with the modern standard Arabic. So, as Professor Khrouz mentioned, the change in the attitudes or the authorities' attitudes does not lead to a change in the community's attitudes. And again, one important thing is that when a community is not interested in maintaining or revitalizing its community language, nobody can impose it on it. No matter what the IRCAM is doing, the school is doing, if the Amazigh communities parents do not take the initiative to transmit the language naturally from one generation to the other, we will reach a situation where we will have again a diagnostic situation between community language, everyday Amazigh language, and the standard form of the language, which actually, where we have actually listened to kids saying, this is what I say in my language, but this is what they say about speaking about the standard form of the language. So you see, this is exactly what is happening, and I think that Amazigh communities should really react, and if anything should be done, it's via the communities that speak the language. So I would like to just excuse, we would like to excuse ourselves for our colleagues following us on Zoom. We have, because, and audience as well, of course, but they are here with us, they have seen everything. The people on the other side of the virtual world don't see all what is happening. So we started a bit late, and of course, this is the first keynote speaker, and we will maybe open the floor for...
Can I say a couple of
things? Sure.
Thank you. It's been fantastic week because you covered, just by taking one case, which is the case of Amazigh, you have covered a wide range of the topics which are actually in the theme of the conference. And you can, so this is a very good example in which actually we're talking about different themes, but they're all linked up, and in this case they're all linked up in one specific language. I have to say that the case that he's described, which is the Moroccan case, is actually practically the same, or at least very similar, everywhere in North Africa. And whatever happened in Morocco had happened in Algeria before, or after, or whatever, and Tunisia and Libya. Speaking of Libya, when he said that Tifina was invented in Libya, of course, Libya was the word for North Africa by the Greeks, so it's a Libyan or Libyc as they call it. So it's not the Libya of today. It was created in Libya, meaning it created in North Africa a long time ago. This is just little things. And then, when talking about Tifina, it reminded me also something else, which is it was adopted in 2003 Our conference in Morocco, in Agadir, was in 2001, and in the middle of the conference, a group of our Moroccan colleagues left Agadir to come to Rabat because they had a meeting with all the government officials and the institutions in order to discuss the status of basically the script to be adopted by Berber. And this is the time when they realized that actually a lot of people, some of the Arabists, didn't like the French, the Latin script. The Berbers wanted the Tifina. And then finally, they said, well, instead of Latin or Arab, or rather, they didn't want the Arabic script, let's take Tifina. In Algeria, it's exactly the opposite. They don't want Tifina. They're allergic to Tifina. Sorry? It's a royal decision in Morocco, exactly. Whereas in Algeria, it's anathema. If you say Tifina, they all run away or they're captain, etc. Just to say, because you mentioned something about there is one side there is politics, and the other there is the communities, the linguistic communities. Each one is capable of positive acts and negative acts. The communities, as he just said, abandon their own languages sometimes. They do more harm to their own languages than other outside communities. And you mentioned because they choose what is traditionally called in this area la lingua del pane, the language of bread. They follow the language which will allow them to survive. I don't call it live, but that's the thing. That's true. They follow that. But the politics can be negative or positive, and the community can be negative or positive, and then they're poor. However, rebirth and revitalization is the act of the community, but then with support from the political institution or whatever. So the politics, you don't have to go back to Machiavelli, that's not things. But you mentioned one thing which to me was quite new, and I really liked it. You said languages and civilizations die from purity. I'm sure when you spoke, we can hear the quotation marks, purity, because a lot of people would interpret it as the exact opposite, impurity. Purity meaning, the old adage, one state, one religion, one language. We know which government, that's precisely the most dictatorial or the most authoritarian governments which have adopted that. But this is recent. And, however, perhaps in the 16th, 17th century, it was a positive act too, because a lot of kingdoms were all spread, there was no communication, and we were talking about uniting the kingdom, for instance. Recently, President Macron in France has opened a new institute of French, the French language. At Villers-Cotterêts. Well, it spreads to francophonie. It's the French of anyway. But the reason for that is that Villers-Cotterêts was the place where King François Ier in the 15th and 16th century decreed that the language of French, of the Loire Valley, basically the Northeast, would be the national language of the kingdom. So it's probably one of the first official acts of creating a national language. It's great because as far as he's concerned, it united all his subjects. However, it killed Occitan, it killed Breton, it killed all the other languages. So when we say purity, what it means is that one state it separates oneness. The language is pure, it doesn't have anything. So you remember Hitler used to do that, the Nazis used to do that for German. Clean up the language, have purity, get rid of all the interferences from others. But, so we talk about one, unite the kingdom, but then it happens that it does exactly the same. Because unite it, that means you clean it up, and in some cases we talk about ethnic cleansing. It's the same thing in linguistic cleansing in many ways. It's the oneness. In Algeria, they used to call it unicity, and that's the thing. Because you mentioned in North Africa, when we're talking about the rebirth, I have to remind people that the first spring that took place was actually the Berber Spring in 1980, which started in Kabylia, but has become a pan-North African things now. Now, of course, we have to invent all sorts of other springs in order to set the balance. But so I think you put your finger on it, but you put probably 10 fingers on these issues, and so we have to remember that all these things go back to what the communities have to take charge of their languages, but then the political will has to follow from them first, and then from the Thank you. Perhaps we were very late, but I'm sure a lot of people would probably want one or two questions. I don't know. So.
maybe
Can you take one or two questions?
one,
If,
more.
unless
Yeah, yeah, it's better. Abalala.
Thank you, Professor, for your rich presentation. I would like to mention the difference between written and oral languages. The fact that the language is written is a privilege because we have a lexicon, we have grammar, we can teach it, etc. But we have some languages that doesn't have this privilege. And we have also, in this case, the burden of learning or relearning, in the case of Berber, for example. So, how is the situation for Morocco?
The situation is a complex one, and because the problem is too big. I was in the board of ILCAM when this question had been discussed. I was in the Ministry of Education, and after I was in the Commission for the National Council. We have discussed about all these issues. The problem in Morocco is first, we have political problems, our problems as Moroccans with languages, because it's the same case in Algeria, for instance, because here we have no problem between Arabs and Amazirs. All Moroccans are so
just Moroccans.
they are Moroccans. I am Moroccans. I am a Moroccan. I am Arab. I am Berber. It's true. It's true. So when I speak or I try to defend Amazigh language, I try to do it not because I am Amazigh, because I am a Moroccan people. And in Morocco, we has not this problem. We has not the problem. It is important for us. Second one, because we have Darija. For me, it is a language. But we have also a political problem with Arab Classic. With us, our problem with Arab, it's not a problem of Arab Classic. It's a problem of Morocco in the area of Arab in the world. Because we have a history. I am talking about the Ummah pan-Islamism and the Ummah pan-Arabism. It's not a problem of Morocco now. Now, since 2011, this problem has been solved. When we speak about Amazigh, you have a lot of colleagues and friends from my area. I am from the southeast of Morocco, the eastern Hayatla, with Rifans, with Susi. They try to explain that they talk about Amazigh de l'Irkam. You have some people who refuse to now to work with Amazigh as a language standard. They tell that it is not Amazigh, it is Irkam standard. This attitude is very dangerous. Because why? As you tell, when a language isn't worked with grammar, with lexic, and when it is not able to evolve, to stand up with the world, with other languages, it is condemned to be died. And now, we have to do a choice. I have discussed with my colleagues in the Council of National. We have to come with this second language, Amazigh second. You have some Berber peoples who try to fight about first or second. It's not a problem for me. We have two official languages, Arabic and Amazigh. Who is the first? It's Arabic, because it was a year, chronologically. And the second official language, since 2011, is Amazigh. But inside Amazigh, that is why I have tried to explain how Amazigh was built by ILCAM. ILCAM has built Amazigh language from Amazigh speaking original speaking. تعريفيت with the net, تشلحيت with the مسمودة, تمازيغت with the سنهجة. Why I try to speak about this? I would like to explain that Amazigh language is coming from Amazigh speaking. Now, the problem about you speak about the problem of local, the heritage, and the wealth, and all these patrimony who is in Qusima, in Nador, in Jba, in Sfiha, in Budnib, in Ouarzazate, in it's, I think, the mission of the council and of the government. How to give these heritage, these languages, not dialects, the opportunity to live and to improve their existence in the country. I think the problem we have now in Morocco is the problem of young people who chose, I understand they chose to live, and they live with the globalization. I have students in university who tell me, why you would like me to speak or to learn English? I speak Darija with my family. I speak Darija in the, I would like to learn English in China because I hope to work in Canada or in Shanghai or in Paris. I am not, je n'ai pas envie, I would like to live in Rashidia or in Ouarzazate or in Steha or in Husima. I hope to live in Canada or in Shanghai. That is our problem now. Thank you.
We are going to take one more question because we are really, oh my God, see how many questions we have? Yeah.
The conference is coming after it. The conference after it was the question.
I don't know how to, can you help me please? Let's take one from the, oh no, we have taken one this one, so let's take one from this side. Yes, please. Yeah. Yes, you. It's Bernadette. Sorry?
Bernadette.
No. But a little voice, a very soft voice. We won't be able to hear it.
Thank you so much. First of all, I would like to thank you for this amazing presentation. I am Amazigh. I come from Khrouz, but I just wanted to reflect on the situation of the language, Amazigh language, because I live with my grandparents in the same house. They speak Amazigh. My parents speak Amazigh. I don't speak Amazigh. And I mean, throughout my childhood, I've always been reflecting on, the reasons why they use this language and I don't speak it. And they only use it when they talk to, for example, my uncles or my aunts. They use the language, but with me, they never used it before. So I grew up thinking that Amazigh language is only used when talking about issues or problems of family. And now, for example, when I meet people outside, in conferences or somewhere, I do acknowledge that I am Amazigh. I have Amazigh origins. But the fact that I don't speak the language makes me feel so embarrassing. So I think that it's not only about, as you mentioned, the laws or regulations or imposing, the language from the stakeholders, but it's also about, it's a parenting issue. Because even now kids, they grow with an attitude towards that language. How can a kid goes to school and learns Amazigh language, but in his house, he's not being exposed to this language. So I think raising awareness comes first. From the parents, from the side of parents, and then perhaps we can move to laws and acknowledging the presence of the language in classrooms or in the educational system.
And you say it brilliantly in English.
Yeah, thank you very much. Actually, this is a real issue. This is the real issue. I really carried a research on a community, my community, the Beni Nasser community in the northeastern part of Morocco. That's exactly the issue there. And the language is being lost, actually. So there is a family planning that parents tell you, what do you want my child to do with Amazigh? What is it used? And they were even criticizing me for asking them, why didn't you transmit the language to your children? And they told me, do you think you have achieved what you have achieved because you are Amazigh and speak Amazigh? It's because you speak French and English that you are where you are. So I think that parents actually tried to, and this is what they said, because there was a lot of stigmatization of Amazigh. And I did undergo this stigmatization myself. I overcame it actually through research. When I tried to do research about understanding why the Amazigh is being lost in my community, that's how I really tried to do some psychotherapy on myself and really reclaim my identity and relearn, because I stopped using the language at the age of about 10. And I had it, but I couldn't speak it. I had to go back to the community, stay again with people, and relearn the language. It was there, but I lost it. So I think that this is actually the main issue. And in the conclusions of my study in 2000, because that's where I defended my doctorat d'etat, 2004, I was hoping, because I was not aware that one day Morocco will achieve what it has achieved with teaching Amazigh, and of course, teaching Amazigh was launched by officialization. I was then claiming that Amazigh should be established as an official language so as to have people change the attitudes towards it. And I was hoping that the teaching will be done properly, because the teaching of Amazigh was not done properly, and this is why it failed. And of course, I also called for awareness campaigns among Amazigh communities. Now, only people who are aware. I have Yassin here, who is actually transmitting Amazigh to his kids. They speak fluently, but only people who are aware of the issue do transmit the language. So that's the main issue that Professor actually Khrouz addressed. There is the policies now, they are there, favorable attitudes, whether they are really in favor or not, but they are there. We have the Constitution recognizing it. But what about the families? Because when a language is being lost, it's very difficult to bring it back.
And what about economy and society? What's the mission of Amazigh in the society? It's not only a problem of family or community. Why you would like you need to learn English, to learn Amazigh? Why? Out of speaking, why my parents or my uncles? Why? Is it important in my job? Am I able to have a job with an Amazigh speaking? That is the most important question now. Because if you have students with a bachelor or doctorate in Amazigh, and after they have no job, why do you want young people learning Amazigh? That is the question now. Thank you so much.